Hello, it's Beachy Cams Man, and it was the 4th of February 2014 when the devastating storm hit Dawlish and left the railway tracks hanging in midair. In this video, we look at the days leading up to the storm. We have some exclusive clips from Dawlish Museum, and Network Rail has sent us some previously unseen footage of the breach and the repairs taking place. But first, did you know you can turn your TV into a window to the coast? We have many free live cams you can watch along our beautiful coastline, and you can visit the coast from the comfort of your own home. And with coast cams, you can watch them 24 hours a day on our website or YouTube channel. So please subscribe, like this video, and share it with your friends. On the 4th of February 2014, with a storm warning in place, the Black Swans and people of Dawlish were going about their daily business. The commuters at Dawlish Railway Station were heading to work as normal and were quite used to getting soaked whilst waiting for a train. Next to the station, the authorities had closed the seafront off to an extremely high tide, and the strong winds were helping push the water up the brook. The sea was getting rougher, and in weather like this, Network Rail has a lookout in the cab, assessing the conditions and looking out for debris on the track. It's not uncommon for waves to hit the trains as they pass through Dawlish, and some of the older trains where you could open the windows manually, you were prone to a proper soaking while sat in your seat. As the tide was coming in, the waves were hitting the seawall so hard that pebbles and seaweed were landing on the main road through Dawlish some 60 feet above the railway. Down the road in Teignmouth, they were also hit hard. In this footage from Devon Sea Safari, you can see the ferocity of the sea, and Teignmouth Pier, built in 1687, experienced catastrophic damage as the powerful waves tore through its wooden floors and tossed the heavyweight arcade machines around. Most of the decking area has been closed since. The railway line has been a part of Dawlish for many years. It was built in 1846 and repairs have been commonplace after a storm, but things were about to change badly. As we woke up on the morning of the 5th of February 2014, Dawlish had made international news with the unforgettable pictures of the railway hanging in midair. As high tide was on its way again, the storm continued to cause havoc in Dawlish. "100 metres from the breach where our San Remo cam was being installed, this was the view from the balcony. A little further down the track, the wooden platform at Dawlish Railway Station was also getting a battering from the waves, and Marine Parade was like a pond. On the other side of the railway line, the damage was clear. This is the southwest coast path, and the beach huts around the corner at Boat Cove had blocked the footpath to Corriton Cove Beach. Overnight, the storm had caused the most significant damage to the railway since it was built, cutting the southwest communities from the rest of the railway network. Further along in Holcombe, towards Teignmouth, over 20,000 tonnes of cliff face had fallen onto the track, causing even more issues for Network Rail. Network Rail put an emergency plan in place and worked around the clock to carry out the major repairs. The railway industry, supported by the government, GWR and Cross Country, played a significant role, implementing one of the largest bus operations to maintain passenger movement and sending engineers to maintain trains in different locations. As the trains could no longer pass through Dawlish, they couldn't all get to their relevant maintenance depots. The spring tides and rough seas continued, and they used around 16 shipping containers filled with rubble to stop more damage to the breached area as repairs took place. Once in place, they brought the rail section up to level and used precast concrete sections for the wall on both sides. The ballast was brought in and then the tracks were laid. Eight weeks later, the breach was fixed, and David Cameron, our Prime Minister at the time, was one of the first people to visit Dawlish by train along the newly fixed stretch of railway. Even though the railway was now up and running, it would take another 18 months to repair the seawall footpath along this section. They first needed to bring the lower footpath up to the height of the rest of the seawall. To understand why this section of seawall footpath was lower than the rest, let's travel back in time to when Brunel's coastal railway was being built. Back then, owning a coastal property meant having your own beach access in Dawlish, but building a railway required getting permission and sometimes paying landowners. One landowner, Mr. Powell of Sealawn House, was particularly tough to convince. He had moved to Dawlish from the Midlands to get away from the industrial boom and wasn't happy about a railway being so close to his house. This railway was going to be different, however. It was planned as an atmospheric railway, which was much quieter than the steam engines as we know. Mr. Powell agreed to the railway on one condition: the public footpath next to his house should not allow people to see into his home. They agreed to lower the path for 200 yards and build a small 18-inch thick wall to hold the railway in place. This is why the wall was always more vulnerable here. Surprisingly, it lasted for 175 years, showing how well Brunel built it in the first place. Ironically, Mr. Powell never saw the railway finished as he passed away before it was complete. Years later, his house was temporarily used as Dawlish Railway Station after a big storm. Before we show you the various phases of the seawall rebuild, please give this video a like, a share and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. If you really like what we do and want to see more behind the scenes videos, you can become a member of our channel by clicking the join button. With a membership, you get to see early bird videos and behind the scenes footage. The Dawlish Sea Wall serves a dual purpose. Not only does it protect the adjacent railway line, which is a vital connection to West Devon and Cornwall, but it also shields the town of Dawlish and its residents from the sea's onslaught. The Dawlish Sea Wall, almost 2 centuries old, was often overlooked of its importance until the 2014 storm. In 2019, 5 years after the storm, the South West Rail Resilience Programme was born, and Team Bridge District Council approved plans for Phase 1. Phase 1 began, marking a significant engineering project on the UK's south coast. This £80 million endeavour was not just a construction project, but a story of resilience and innovation in the face of nature's forces. The new 360 metre long section of the Dawlish Sea Wall was made of 145 concrete panels designed to reflect the waves back out to sea, and with a wider, safer footpath allowed users with reduced mobility more freedom along the King's Walk section. The concrete panels were precast by Shea Murtagh over in Ireland and shipped over to be installed. On the 28th of July 2020, the seawall was opened to the public for the first time since its closure, and I was honoured to be the first member of the public to cross it. It was officially opened by the Rail Minister Chris Heaton-Harris 2 months later. For decades, commuters have been used to getting wet whilst waiting for a train at Dawlish Railway Station, and it doesn't matter which platform you were stood at, in rough seas and high tide, you got wet. In some severe storms, the railway line between the station platforms could be mistaken for a canal, and you could often see fish swimming between the tracks. Construction of Phase 2 commenced in November 2020 and runs parallel to the Dawlish Railway Station. BAM Nuttall were awarded the contract, and to speed things up, they brought in a self-contained jack-up barge known as the Wave Walker. It was the first time the Wave Walker had been used to upgrade the UK railway network, and it allowed the teams to continue working across the tidal range. The Wave Walker has a modular design, so BAM could customise what machinery they needed for the platform specifically for the Sea Wall build. Luke Wave Walker, as I called it, was used to install the vast piles and foundations that this section of the Sea Wall required. They went 20 metres into the ground. This new section of the seawall has 164 front-facing panels, 203 precast concrete blocks and 189 recurve units that deflect the waves back out to sea. All the precast concrete sections were made by Shea Murtagh in Ireland, and if you want to see how their factory operates, you can join Jack Brooks and me over in Ireland by clicking the button above or the link in the comments. Even though Phase 2 offers 21st century protection and full accessibility, there are many engravings to illustrate the history of the wall, and reclaimed stone from Brunel's Wall has been used to create new benches, which is a lovely touch. This colossal 8-metre wall is 2.5 metres taller than the previous one, but allows passengers and seawall visitors to remain safer when travelling. As the viaduct was the only access to the beach, most of the large machinery had to be brought in by boat, and KMS had just the vessel. KMS Terramare is an offshore supply ship that was built in 1960. Captain Killick and KMS Terramare were responsible for the delivery of the giant machines to site. The vessel would bring them in and wait for the tide to go out so she could unload. In July 2023, Phase 2 was officially opened. While Phase 2 was being built, Phase 3 commenced in autumn 2021 with the contractors Morgan Sindall. Their task was to install a new rockfall shelter along a vulnerable section of the railway between Dawlish and Holcombe. The new 209-metre shelter joins Parsons Tunnel and is open-sided so passengers can still see the incredible views. Above the shelter, they installed soil nails and netting to keep the cliff material in place, and using these, it allowed Network Rail to reduce the length of the rockfall shelter by half. Most of the construction had to take place at night when the trains weren't running, and they used a gantry crane that run on separate rails to install the 185 precast concrete sections. Construction was completed in spring 2023, and they also planted local species alongside the sandstone coloured blocks to help blend the structure into the 250 million year old sandstone cliffs. While the BAM Nuttall team were finishing Phase 2, another BAM team was starting Phase 4. Phase 4 adds resilience to the cliffs between Phase 1 and Phase 3. Due to the delicate environment, they had to work closely with Natural England, as the Dawlish Cliffs are a site of special scientific interest, SSSI. When this film was made, BAM Nuttall was continuing its work along the cliffs. They are installing coir matter on the cliff face, followed by 19,700 metres of stainless steel netting. This is secured by 5,260 soil nails drilled to depths of up to 12 metres into the face of the cliff. Phase 5 is still in the pipeline, and Network Rail is investigating how to make the railway between Teignmouth and Parsons Tunnel more resilient. There are yet to be any firm proposals, but keep an eye on Network Rail's website for any updates. We really hope you've enjoyed this video, and we have a more in-depth documentary coming soon. To ensure you see it, please like this video, and when you subscribe to our channel, please click the bell icon so you're reminded of our new videos and live cameras. Thanks for watching.